Hello and welcome back. So did you manage to do the mini exercise I left you with at the end of the previous video and add a card component to our app? Let's see how we can do that. Let's open our trusted documentation page and look for cards. Here's a basic card. It's just a box with a raised border essentially. But we can also have a header inside the card, like in this example. So let's copy this code snippet and go and paste it into our page template. Now, instead of header, we want to say Romeo and Juliet, just as a placeholder. We should really show whatever the user enters into our input fields, but we'll do that later. As for the card content, let's remove this text. Here we'll display the love score, for example 99%. Let's save this file, and that's our card. Pretty simple. Now maybe it will look nicer if we center the text inside the card. To do that, we can simply add the text center attribute to Ion card. Save, and there you go, it's centered. That's better. What's this text center attribute, you may ask? Text center is a utility attribute provided by Ionic. You can find it in the documentation under utility attributes. There are a few of those for common styling requirements like aligning text. Another styling improvement we could make is increase the size of the text showing 99%. Because that's the result of our calculation, so it's the most important piece of information in this app, if you like. We can use regular CSS styles, of course. In fact, we can even use inline styles. Just as a quick example, we could set the font size to 200%, that is twice as big as the default size. And there you go. That's certainly more visible. However, using inline styles is usually not a good practice, especially if you want to apply the same style in more than one place. So we could define a new CSS class instead. Let's say we have a class called score, where score is this percentage number. Now, where do we define the rules for this style class? If we look at our project structure, we have this home.scss file that was generated for us. This is where we can put styles specific to our home page. Note that it says page home here, which is the same value as the selector declared in our home page component. When Angular renders this home page component, it will use the selector as the tag name in the HTML. We can see that if we inspect the elements in the browser. Let me open the DevTools as a separate window, otherwise it's a bit difficult to see. So here we have Ion app, which is the tag we use in index.html that matches the Ionic app component, that is what we bootstrap in our app module. Inside Ion app, we can see an ng component with class app_root. Angular renders an ng component tag whenever we have a component that doesn't have a selector property. This is actually the myApp component, that's the root component of our application. Then we have IonNav, that's what's in the root components template. And inside it, we have page home. So this page home is our rendered home page component. Inside page home, we have Ion header and Ion content and so on. So Ionic uses this page home tag to encapsulate styles specific to this page. Let me put the DevTools back at the bottom. Right. So remember that this selector here is important because it's used for styling. Home.scss is a Sass file, and one of the extra features available with Sass compared to plain CSS is that we can nest selectors. So we can add .score here inside page home, and this way it will only apply to those elements that are inside the page home tag and have class score. Now we can actually declare the style that is simply font size 200%. And that works. So Ionic follows this convention where each page has an SCSS file with the same name, and every rule in that file is wrapped inside page dash and the page name, and that needs to match the component selector. This way we can isolate the styles for each page. Isolate in the sense that we could have another page that declares its own score class but with different rules, and that style wouldn't interfere with the home page. Right, so at this point we always display Romeo and Juliet, which is correct if we actually enter Romeo and Juliet in the input fields, but if we enter different names, like, I don't know, Tarzan and Jane, then the card should also show Tarzan and Jane, of course. So the next step is to bind our input fields to some properties that are then displayed in the card. If you are comfortable with Angular property binding, you can try doing this yourself as an exercise if you feel like. There's nothing really specific to Ionic you need to know. You can just use the Angular ng model directive. But in any case, we'll see how to do that in the next video. I'll see you later.